Thokozani family, how is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing well. I just thought I'd come in today and we will take a look at Djehuti as we are in the final stretch. We have a couple of days till we exit Djehuti. Djehuti, the season of Djehuti rather, ends on the 22nd. That is the last day of the season of Djehuti, and what a season we have had. But before we exit Djehuti, I just wanted to make you guys aware of a couple of things. Number one, did you know that Djehuti is very closely related to the planet Mercury? And currently we're having Mercury retrograde. In fact, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. And we know that Djehuti is known as the mouthpiece of Ra, meaning Djehuti is also very close to the sun. In fact, is a part of Ra along with Ma'at, and therefore Mercury is also a planet that controls or rules communication like Djehuti does. So it's very interesting how our ancestors understood the science so well. So currently we are in a Mercury retrograde. I think it ends sometime mid-January. And so I always say with Mercury retrograde, anything that can be misunderstood will be misunderstood. And so I thought it would be great to tie in Djehuti's effective communication and how Mercury can throw a spanner in the works when it is retrograde. And what does retrograde mean? Mercury in retrograde really just means Mercury is spinning anti-clockwise on its axis. So it's not actually like it's going in reverse, although that is what people would like to say. So what aspects can we look at in terms of ourselves and our lives when we're looking at the influence of Djehuti, the influence of Mercury on communication? One of the things we can look at is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that is very important, and Djehuti assists greatly with emotional intelligence. So the question becomes, what is emotional intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence is the ability to acknowledge your emotions, to identify what those emotions are, so that you can better manage them. This is a very difficult thing. And a lot of people will say, I have emotional intelligence, but really the way we know you have emotional intelligence is by your actions and your words. With everything in African spirituality, we rely very little on what people say, but we look at people's actions. That is what tells us whether someone is really spiritual or not. And so with emotional intelligence, it really, particularly with the holiday season coming up, I thought this was a great way to work with the energy of emotions. Because remember, emotions are actually energy in motion. Emotions, all of our different emotions have a different frequency. Some are very low vibrational: anger, jealousy, envy, meanness, sadness. Those are emotions that are low vibrational, and therefore a lot of people don't even like to acknowledge that they have these emotions. Why is that? Because of social programming, right? Society tells us that when you display anger or you admit to jealousy or envy, you are a bad person, right? That is how you're judged. But actually, acknowledgement of your emotions is the first step to managing them. And emotions by themselves, hear me well, emotions by themselves are neither good nor bad. It is what you do when you process these emotions, your actions based on these emotions, that you can class as either good or bad, if you want to use that kind of a dichotomy. And so emotional intelligence requires a lot of self-awareness. It requires you to continually ask the question, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Right? Because if you don't understand why you have certain emotions, how are you better able to manage them? Because part of managing them is understanding what brings on these particular emotions. And so when you feel a certain emotion, the way to do it is look at what is surrounding you. What is going on around you? Are you with other people? Who are these other people? Do they trigger something in you? Are they people whose company stresses you out and therefore brings certain emotions, right? Are you by yourself? Do you feel sadder when you're alone and happier when you're with a crowd, right? What is it that brings on this sadness? What is it that brings on this feeling of despair or hopelessness? Is it when you're in huge crowds, or is it when you're alone, or is it when you're in small crowds? Is it with one particular individual? Is it a circumstance? So you have to understand your emotions and what brings about these emotions so that you can manage them by managing the environment that rouses certain emotions for you. So emotional intelligence is very important, because what we need to understand is that our emotions, and therefore the actions therefrom, affect everybody around us. They affect our friends, our families, our co-workers. They affect even just people who you are meeting in passing, because they pick up on the energy that you embody when you're feeling a particular emotion. So emotional intelligence is important as a part of being able to live amongst each other as community. Now, one of the things that somebody once said to me, and it was said by somebody who, quite frankly, I didn't care for, and this person said to me, one of the problems with Abantu is they lack impulse control. They lack impulse control. What does that mean? It means that we do not have the ability to regulate or to self-regulate when it comes to our emotions. So you feel angry. You don't have the ability to self-regulate so that you don't take that anger out and do something that you will regret the minute that you've done it, or say something you will regret the minute that you've said it. So impulse control is one of the things that comes along with being able to have emotional intelligence. Impulse control is what's going to help you to manage your emotions in whatever situation you find yourself in. Now, why do you want to manage your emotions? Remember that emotions are energy in motion. And so if you have chronic negative emotions, it means you have chronic low vibrational energy stream coming off of you. That will affect other people, it will affect your family, your kids, it will affect everything that's going on in your life. Number one. Number two, and more importantly, it really affects your ability to connect with the divine. It affects your ability to connect with the cosmos and to be in resonance and harmony with certain frequencies where you have the things that you're trying to manifest. In other words, if you do not have emotional intelligence, it's very unlikely that you will be able to manifest anything, because you're not able to manage your emotions. You're not able to self-regulate. So you're here, there, and everywhere. And so you send the universe or the cosmos mixed messages about whatever it is you want. Remember, whatever it is you want has to be matched by a certain emotion which has a certain frequency. So if you're inconsistent with that emotion and that frequency, well, whatever it is you're looking for will continue to sit in the ethereal plane and you can't meet its frequency. Right? Emotional intelligence is also very important because it allows you to maintain a high vibrational frequency. Why? Because when you feel a certain negative emotion, you recognize it for what it is, accept it for what it is, and then you let it go. If somebody has spoken bad about you, it hurts. You recognize that you're hurt or you're angry, accept it, and then you let it go. It's the letting go part that people have a hard time doing. Why? Because they find it hard to accept. Surrender is everything in spirituality. If there's nothing you can do about what somebody has said, if there's nothing you can do about what somebody has done, let it go. Surrender it. Let it go. The problem is when you don't let it go, then you start to build up resistance within yourself. That anger brews, that sadness brews, your sense of self-worth plummets, you're vibrating low, and you cannot meet the frequency of the things that you really, truly desire. Because remember, it's very difficult to maintain a high vibrational frequency when you haven't dealt with your low vibrational emotions. How? Right? It's confusing. It's confusing to you. It's confusing to the universe. Right? So it's very important to understand that emotional intelligence also gives you the ability to know when to speak and when not to speak. Emotional intelligence gives you the ability to know what is worth your reaction or your response and what isn't worth your reaction and response. Because remember, anything that you give energy to grows. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in. Being able to quickly recognize when something is not worth your attention or your time and move right along. The other thing to be very, very aware of is emotional intelligence allows you to have compassion for other people. Emotional intelligence means that you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And compassion is something that we need so much within our community because we admit that we have all been hurt. And we start from that premise where we understand and have compassion for each other's weaknesses. We don't make excuses for them, but we deal with them with compassion, meaning we love you into becoming a better person because we understand our brokenness and where our brokenness comes from. And remember, we have centuries of woundedness to undo. So we are here representing our ancestors, and we have centuries, generations and generations of ancestral pain, ancestral trauma, ancestral baggage to deal with. Always keep that in mind. The beauty of it is you and me are the ones who can totally shift this so that our children don't have to deal with any of what we are dealing with and what our ancestors had to deal with if we do the work in the here and now. So emotional intelligence is really, really important because you can live a healthy, functional life and have healthy, functional relationships when you're able to self-regulate and when you're able to have and to demonstrate this emotional intelligence. People who are emotionally intelligent know how to manage their relationships. They are better able to deal with other people's emotions because they manage their own. Emotional intelligence allows you to separate which emotions are yours and which emotions are you picking up because somebody's projecting them out onto you. A lot of times people are feeling horrible or feeling bad about things that have nothing to do with them. Emotional intelligence, when you're in control of your emotions and you've mastered your own emotional being, you're able to notice and identify a manipulator immediately. And you're able to recognize that, that issue, that's a you issue, not a me issue. But if you are not in control of your own emotions and you don't know how to manage them, then it's very easy for just about anybody to project their own insecurities, their own anger onto you, so that in the end, you cannot distinguish their emotions from your own. And this is what tends to happen in a lot of relationships. Particularly in relationships where people do not want to take accountability. The partner that doesn't want to take accountability will simply gaslight you and have you believing that the problem is yours and not theirs. But when you're emotionally intelligent, when you are master of your own domain, nobody can play you like that, because you have the ability to see what is yours, because you know what is yours, you've accepted it, and what belongs to the other. So I wanted to talk about Djehuti and emotional intelligence as well as Mercury retrograde, because it is so important to stay in your power, particularly over the holiday season. People are going home to families. Some are already stressed out about it because, gosh, there's always that one uncle with his big mouth, or that one auntie who just knows how to put her foot in her mouth. But if you already know that these people are this way, why do you allow them to affect you year after year after year? Excuse me, why are you allowing them to stress you right now before you've even gone to see them or to be with them? It means that you are not in charge of your emotions. Someone outside of you controls your emotions. If someone outside of you can control your emotions, they basically control you. And they can run your life. Why? Because if someone outside of you controls your emotion, makes you angry, can trigger you, and knows which buttons to push, well, you're vibrating low most of the time. You're not going to be able to be creative. Creativity cannot flourish with low vibrational energy. Creativity is a divine gift that requires you to be in harmony, in ma'at, with the universe. Creativity, it requires you to be in total sync with nature. You cannot create resonance between the cosmos and yourself if you're low vibration. You can't. That resonance is what then brings about that divine inspiration that gives you the magical ideas that you can then implement and put into something physical. Creativity. You cannot be inspired to write the best novel if you are low vibrational. Where do you get the inspiration from when you are always depressed? Where are you going to write that inspirational song if you are constantly tired because you're drained, because you are chronically angry? So emotional intelligence is so important for so many things, including your physical health. Because when you cannot control your emotions, remember, your emotions are energy in motion, and this energy sets about certain chemical changes within your body. People who are chronically angry or chronically stressed have high levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, circling in their bodies. They have high levels of adrenaline as well. An excess of these hormones has been linked to multiple diseases. Multiple diseases, heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, heart attacks, diabetes, you name them. And guess what? But want to have a high preponderance of these diseases within our communities. The state of our physical health in our communities is an indicator of the state of our spiritual health. Why do I say that? Because everything is on the ethereal plane. It's in the causal plane before it manifests as physical. And therefore, when we get our spirit right, when we get our emotions right, and we are able to vibrate high, your body will heal almost automatically. Because you have a healthy spiritual and emotional and psychological state, the body will follow. A lot of people will say, where the mind goes, the body follows. So It's very important to understand emotional intelligence. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, and really reflect on some of these things as the holidays are coming up and people are meeting. Stay in your power. Do not allow people to have you behave out of character. When you can master your emotions and you're not repressing them, remember what we said, you accept that this is the way it is, you accept that emotion, and then you let it go. Do not let anyone be who determines your destiny. You're a god, you're a goddess, you're here to determine your own destiny. Masithokozeni.